Good morning, everybody. A warm greetings from India. I'm Dr. Padmarani, the Director of Manipal Institute of Communication, Manipal, India, and the organizer of the ICA Regional Hub, Manipal. Manipal Institute of Communication is a constituent unit of Manipal Academy of Higher Education, which is popularly known as MAHE. It is ranked as the #1 university in the country, and Manipal Institute of Communication is a premier media and communication institution in the country, providing courses for both undergraduate and postgraduate programs as well as doctoral programs. Currently, we offer courses in media, communication, animation, digital marketing, and a wide array of other courses. ICA Regional Hub was started in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm thankful to the leaders of the International Communication Association for choosing to hold the ICA Regional Hub in Manipal. This is the third consecutive year when the ICA has decided to give us this opportunity to host the regional hub. The ICA Regional Hub helps us in not only networking but also in learning about the scholarship in the field both in India and abroad. This provides an opportunity to interact with scholars across the globe, and this in the future will help us not only in popularizing but also promoting the discipline as a whole. The ICA Regional Hub activities in India has also led to the formation of the ICA India chapter. The ICA India chapter was only inaugurated in April 2024, and we hope that in the future years to come, the ICA India chapter will help strengthen the communication and media discipline in the country. For this panel, which we are hosting from the ICA Regional Hub Manipal, the theme is Communication and Global Human Rights, a South Asian Perspective. My colleague, Professor B.P. Sanjay, will take you through this panel.
A very good morning from the ICA Regional Hub in Manipal. We have, in accordance with the overall theme of the ICA conference in Gold Coast, Australia, decided to focus on communication and global human rights with specific focus on South Asia. South Asia region has a shared colonial experience as well as nurtured a media system. The situation in many of our countries is complex, and it hinges on the governance system, the media system, and the professionals who are working for the media. How does the media affect the society has been studied from different perspectives. When we decided to frame the theme, we were conscious of the fact that global watch groups have already given a moderate to low ranking to many of the countries with regard to media or press freedom. However, we also wanted to understand from academicians and journalists in these countries as to what the theme means to them and what are the implications of understanding human rights in all its dimensions. At the end of it, we are also concerned that ultimately human rights is an issue of large sections of the society and has to necessarily address the needs of the deprived sections of our society, independent of the country or the region they are all in. On this note, we have framed the topic and reached out to our resource persons to deal with the issue from their understanding and perspective. Madhavdas Dalpat is the Peace Chair at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education and is also the Director of the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations. Dalpat is a reputed columnist for various national and international publications. He is currently the editorial director of a weekly edition newspaper, The Sunday Guardian, and ITV Network India. Also, vice chair of the Manipal University's Advanced Research Group. He's been the editor of Times of India and also the editor of Mathrubhumi. Dr. Dalpat writes expertly on international affairs and appears regularly on global media as well as national channels and is considered a respected authority on geopolitics. Friends, it's our pleasure to present Professor Dalpat and listen to some of the views he has on the topic, the way he understands the issues.
Human rights is at the core of human progress. Progress comes because individuals wish to ensure that the humanity within humankind is preserved and protected by helping the rest of humanity. As far as South Asia is concerned, it's becoming a very much more important part of the world than was the case in the past, for a simple reason that it's a vibrant young population. A huge proportion of people in South Asia are young. Overall, the region is making significant economic progress. In fact, some countries, the rate of progress is among the highest in the world. And a huge number of people have been lifted out of poverty. And poverty is, as you know, the negation of a very important human right, which is the human right to a dignified life and a human right to a sustainable lifestyle. Now, where communications is important is that communication is the means by which individuals who are in society can understand the centrality of human rights in their own lives. Unless they feel it is important to themselves as well, they may not pay much attention to it. The reality is that it is important to themselves as well, because respect for human rights, universal respect for universal human rights will ensure a society that is ordered in a way that progress is significant. It's not an accident that the lead industries of today, the knowledge industry, human rights is very much the foundation of these industries. They're not based on forced labor. They're not based on other exploitative systems. They're based on equal participation. And why? Because knowledge is unlocked. The urge to contribute is unlocked. The freer a society is, and the greater the level of human rights in that society. From that point of view, South Asia ought to be an example to the rest of the world. An example in terms of a broadening of human rights across every section of the population. Because let's be honest, if we talk about the human body, and we talk about the human body as being healthy, if any corner of the human body is not in a state of good health, that can affect the entire body. In much the same way, if any corner of South Asia is affected by a neglect of human rights or a deficit of human rights, it can impact the rest of society. Communication has got to be an instrument through which this central fact is communicated throughout South Asia, and from South Asia, and the example of South Asia, the example disseminates throughout the world. Therefore, this conference is very important. And the subject of this conference is very important. The region that is being dealt with is very important. In fact, it is central to human progress. South Asia, having such a large share of the population of the globe, the human progress in a significant way will be impacted by the rate of progress in South Asia. So let's all work together. Let's all work together to ensure through communications that the knowledge of the importance of human rights, how they can be protected, why they should be protected, and how it is that we can have a society where humanism and humanity is protected and encouraged and nurtured. How that can happen, communication is the central instrument that we have. Let's use it wisely. Let's use it to ensure South Asia becomes an example to the whole world in the matter of promoting human rights. Thank you.
Dr. Bushra Hamidur Rahman is the Dean at the School of Media and Mass Communication, Beacon House National University. She has a rich academic background and has previously held the position of professor in the School of Communication Studies and served as the chairperson of the Department of Journalism Studies at the University of Punjab. Her research critically examines mass media discourses, emphasizing their role in both dividing and uniting communities. Dr. Rahman's interests span Orientalism, feminism, and Muslim feminism. She has focused on the portrayal of Muslim women in Western media and religious discourses as well. She also explores themes like peace and ethical values in communication, education, and practice. Recently, Dr. Rahman has delved into the ideas of Rousseau, Muhammad Iqbal, and Mary Parker pertaining to conflict and integration. Her aim is to create a framework for consensus building in communities for the common good. As a founding member and president of the Association of Media and Communication Academic Professionals, AMCAP, she has organized international conferences on media and society and doctoral schools in Pakistan. Dr. Rahman's leadership extends to her role as chair of the Islam and Media Group of the International Association of Mass Communication Research, IMCR. She also serves as the chief editor of the AMCAP Journal of Media and Communication Studies, building on her editorial experience for the Journal of Media Studies at the University of Punjab. Friends, Professor Bushra from Pakistan.
Hello, I'm Bushra Hamidur Rahman, and I'm very happy to be part of this ICA panel where we'll be talking about communication and human rights. And my topic is with reference to communication and human rights. How do we need to value every voice in democracy? So basically, my whole topic would be focusing on that. The way I'm going to unfold my talk will be like this. That first I'll talk about what is the situation of digital divide in Pakistan, how important it is for us to understand that when we have this digital divide, what kind of repercussions it has when it comes to this right, fundamental right of human beings, that they need to be heard. And then I also would like to deliberate or talk about it in this context, that we need to understand that how this freedom of expression or this right to communicate has an effect in the way we understand the concept of democracy, especially how Rousseau, Mary Parker Follett, Allama Iqbal, C.R. Das had envisioned democracy. So we'll try to integrate this whole concept of communication as a human right in true democracy. So to begin with, when it comes to Pakistan, 54% of Pakistanis don't have access to internet. Then apart from that, we have number of reports which also tells us that there is a fundamental divide between the urban and the rural areas when it comes to access to digital media. Then it's just not that, it's also the affordability that is also there. And then of course then there is this discussion of gender discrimination, in the sense that how much males are using and how much females are using. So these debates are going around, and Pakistan is no different from any other developing countries where we see these disparities and we see this discrimination when it comes to access and affordability of digital platforms. Having said that, we also understand that how important it is that communication in a democratic setup is free for everyone, in the sense that they just don't have the access to the platforms from where one can voice their opinion, but also we need to understand that it's just not about voicing the opinion, it's also about giving value to that opinion. So what I basically trying to say here is that when you say that we need to value each other's opinion, that means that it has to be above any discrimination. It has to be above any socio-economic backgrounds. It has to be above any belief system or ideology. Every voice is important because it is a voice, irrespective of the background, irrespective of the belief system. Now, once when we've established that fact that every voice needs to be heard and every voice needs to be valued, now what do we need to do with that? Now, when you have this voice, all voices, and when all voices are valued, we should just not be confining ourselves to that point alone. It is here that I would like to bring in the concept of democracy, how Rousseau in his book Social Contract has spoken about it. Now he talks about general will, and he talks about general will in the context when all individuals collectively make a decision. It is a reflection of a general will, and that general will is usually for the good, for the common good. And this is how he sees the relationship between a state and an individual. And likewise, Mary Parker Follett, who's an American philosopher, she also says the same thing, that how we need to make sure that individual voices are integrated in the decision-making process of any democratic society. So democracy is not just that individuals just go once in 5 years or 4 years and they can vote to certain people and then they take it up from there and it's their decisions, and it is they who have to impose their decisions on the rest. Here the whole concept here is that democracy is an ongoing process where every individual is in a continuous state where he is contributing continuously in collaboration with the others. So what we are trying to say here is, what basically I'm trying to say here is that Mary Parker Foley is focusing on this particular part and saying that we need to understand that in a democratic process, every individual voice is important and every individual need to work in a group where they sort of work on their ideas and then they come up and they with a joint new idea where they have a consensus, and once when they have a consensus on an idea, then they have a mutual feeling for that idea and then there is a will to implement it. So what she's suggesting here is that you start from small groups and this eventually will lead to larger groups interaction, and this is how we take decisions collectively. Allama Iqbal also is of the same opinion that whenever decisions are made together, they are also reflective of the common will of the people, and this common will is always for the common good. C.R. Das has also said the same thing, where he also talks about inclusivity, and he says that every member of the society, irrespective of their religion or belief system or class, needs to be part of the decision-making process. Reason I am talking about Rousseau, Mary Parker Foley, Allama Iqbal and C.R. Das is that all these scholars have come to this one conclusion, that we need to understand the democratic process or democracy in a new way, where decisions are not imposed on the other just on the basis of majority, but they are basically made together with consensus. And once when the consensus is made, then everyone works for it. So those who have deviated initially, they also will work for that particular idea that they have worked together. So coming back to what I was trying to say earlier is that when we are talking about communication as a fundamental human right, I am trying to focus on this thing, that this particular fundamental human right is there so that we together, collectively, with deliberations, make decisions. And the belief is that whenever we make decisions together, collectively, there is a common good that emerges from that collective decision, and once when that is made, then there is a collective will to execute it. So my whole idea here is that the leaders are basically the ones who are not saying or who are not imposing their idea of good on the people, but true leaders in democracy are only spokespersons of the collective will of the people, which is basically for collective good. So when we are talking about digital access to everyone, the spirit behind that should be that voice that comes from those digital platforms are part of the decision-making process of a democratic society. So on one hand, if we are celebrating pluralism and we want to advocate pluralism, and in that light we say that everyone should have an access and everyone can afford all those platforms where everyone can give their voice, but then what do you do with so many, or what do you do with multiple voices? What we need to understand is that from these multiple voices, we need to work for a consensus which is good for everyone. So, communication as a basic human right is where is for the purpose where we can work for the benefit of the community as a whole. So I am of the opinion that once when we approach or understand democracy in this way, and we understand the importance of communication as a basic human right in this way, then when we are working for accessibility and affordability of digital platforms for everyone, we are basically trying to work in this direction where we want people to come up with ideas which are good for everyone, and where when they have this consensus on those ideas, then they are working together. So with that, I think I have covered everything, and if there are any questions or any other concern, we can talk about it later. So thank you very much.
Dr. Ghulam Rahman is an educationist, media researcher, and communication expert in Bangladesh. At present, Professor Dr. Muhammad Ghulam Rahman is the editor of the Bangla daily Ajkar Patrika. He has served as the Chief Information Commissioner of the Government of Bangladesh. He has been a professor at the Department of Mass Communication and Journalism, University of Dhaka. Mr. Rahman was also Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Daffodil International University in Dhaka. His expertise is in language and communication studies, and he has been visiting professor at Papua New Guinea. He's also been the chairman of the National Broadcasting Policy document, and he is the country representative of AMEC. He is currently the member of the Bangladesh Censor Board Appellate Committee, author of several books, and he has published more than 60 research papers in national and international journals. We are very happy that Professor Muhammad Ghulam Rahman has joined us from Bangladesh.
Hello, this is Dr. Ghulam Rahman from Bangladesh. I had been teaching in the University of Dhaka for about 4 decades. Now I am the editor of Ajkar Patrika, daily newspaper of Bangladesh. It's a great opportunity for me to talk to you. I think the scenario of mass media in Bangladesh is very interesting. At the same time, I call it a soul-searching performance for electronic media, particularly broadcast media. You know, Bangladesh was liberated in 1971 after a great bloodshed, and we sacrificed many of our lives for the independence of Bangladesh. But from 1971, we are in a position to show our entity, especially the socio-cultural and other identity and our activities. We also in a position to show our individual, not only cultural identity, but also the freedom of expression in the country. We have got public service broadcasting available in the country with about 40 television stations. They are private television channels. And also we have got government-owned television. It is called Bangladesh Television. We have also got community radios and a radio by government. It is called Bangladesh Betar or Bangladesh Radio. And we have got thousands of printed newspaper in the country. They're given license from the Information Ministry, and those newspapers are being published daily, weekly, fortnightly on different periodicals. So now I want to emphasize the point of freedom of expression in our country. In Bangladesh, we find individuals' freedom to speak, to learn, and to disseminate information from his or her own point of views. And at the same time, the broadcast media, the printed newspapers, periodicals, and all other mode of expression are free and open to share their views and information. And that's why we have got few dozens of television stations who are running their programs. They're also broadcasting their news several times in a day. There are televisions who are engaged with the programs, particularly the cultural programs and different types of entertainment programs. Most of the television channels, they telecast different programs based on literature, music, and different types of performance. And at the same time, we find Bangladesh Television, who is responsible for telecasting the real cultural dimensions of the country, and most of the cultural activities which can be transformed through television. Bangladesh Television is taking that initiative to broadcast. So where the other private television channels, as I said, about few dozens, they are producing popular programs, they are producing news, but they are not in a position to reflect the true cultural representation of the country. This is the irony that you have got the freedom of expression. They can produce programs, they can telecast programs they like to produce. But the point is, the real broadcast or telecast, which depends on the cultural ethos and cultural representation of the major socio-cultural organizations, religious organizations, and also the majority of the population. I should mention here about 90% of the population are Muslim in Bangladesh, and then about 10% of population are of other religious sectors. So there are some aboriginals, some small minority groups, and their representations in the media are not that much open. They are limited and very much occasional. That's why the true representation of the ethnic minorities and the population are not in that way. Although we believe and we understand there's no bar, there is no restrictions to produce the programs or the cultural reflections of them. And we also see the reflection of country's cultural ethos and practices are limited by several medias. But Bangladesh television, they try to represent different ethnic groups and sects, and also they produce variety of programs for the children, for the women, for different professional groups, and also represent most of the socio-cultural activities of the country. Only in case of the news, the Bangladesh television is not very broad from their attitudes. And that's why the news seem to be not critical, news is not seem to be representational of the country. The Bangladesh televisions, since it is a government-owned television station and it has got several substations and branches throughout the country, and it covers about 90% of the population of the country, but it is named for its narrow broadcast policy that it does not represent the opposition, political opposition of the country. So the news are presented in monopoly, which represent the government voice. But there are other stations, I said about few dozens of television stations, who are broadcasting news irrespective of political affiliation and party affiliation. So they can broadcast, they can telecast all types of news that happens in the country and outside the country, the world affairs. So regarding news, all other television stations are very much free to broadcast. At the same time, we have got few hundreds of daily newspapers published in the country, and few dozens newspapers are well circulated throughout the country. Most of the newspapers are coming out from the capital, Dhaka, of the country. And we also get some daily newspapers published from different district towns of the country. We have got about 180 million people in the country. So Bangladesh is a densely populated country. Regarding all other socio-cultural factors, we find the newspapers are very free to publish their opinions, the articles, features, and news. And there's not any restriction to publish anything, but there is a practice of self-regulations or self-censorship by the newspaper editors. In a way, to some extent it can be said that it is a part of responsible journalism they are doing. But sometimes it is also observed that by the name of responsible journalism, sometimes they are doing overdo they do overdo of the practice. That means they consciously or unconsciously control some news which could be published. So this is the irony, And at the same time, you'll find the printed materials, particularly the magazines and the weekly literary sections and features of most of the newspapers, they're entertaining, they're interesting, and a lot of reading materials are available in newspapers. So people in general find they get news, views, and all other opinions freely available in their publications. Culturally speaking, we are in a monolithic cultural situation. About 90% of the population are Muslims, and the 10% with other religious minorities and tribal peoples. So their representation in mass media are limited, as I said before, only on occasions like Christmas Day or some Durga Puja or some major religious activities. Some items are published in the newspapers. And for other media, particularly radio and televisions, they also publish scanty items, only occasional items on those religious and social activities on particular days of the year. So that means, although in a pluralistic society, Bangladesh has got freedom for religion, freedom for speech and expression, and also Bangladesh enjoys the real plurality of the society. So a country is born with this motto and objectives. It is maintaining that sort of spirit in their activities. But there is a influence of world politics and world opinion. I mean, the slash of world's political narrow or parochial attitudes from many countries give some sort of influence to our cultural, religious, and of the freedom-loving people of the country. That means the world religion and world cultural atmosphere to put some influence on our mass media in Bangladesh. Conclude by saying that our mass media, particularly television, radio, and newspaper, they have not limited their presentations or publications. They are rather informing people with responsible journalism and responsible media activities. Although the dissemination of public service messages to the nation is very much in demand, and the radio, television, and newspaper, they are presenting public service information on different occasions. And we also find the advent of new technology and also the trend of social media use in country is enormous. The social media is a very big way that has come throughout the world, and it is not even scattered the international scenario. Bangladesh is very much part of that, and people in Bangladesh, particularly the youths, the young people, they're very much involved in understanding, sharing, and personalized information for social media. And the social media affairs are getting wide and spectacular just because they are used as their own medium. And there is a trend that I need to recognize, that because of this personal media, the social media, the use of mass media, particularly radio, television, are getting avoided by the people in general. And the change of shifting of the mode of operation of mass media is very eminent. And in Bangladesh, we find that people are getting involved in using social media rather than mass media, as we said, the common communication platforms. It is interesting that people of all ages now engage themselves in social media use, more or less. So, in this juncture of social media use and the fate of mass media, and also the print media, particularly the newspaper, there is a shifting of and changing of traditions, and we find this tradition is going to be established in a new way, in a modern thinking process. The people of Bangladesh will be involved in creating their own atmosphere, their own media situation throughout the world. And they are very much will be engaged in their own activities in the country's realities. So thank you very much for the opportunity that I'm given. Thank you all.
Santosh Sigdal is a Nepali lawyer with more than 18 years of experience of working on human rights, transitional justice, right to information, cyber law, media law, with reference to Nepal. He graduated in Masters of Law from Tribhuvan University and Central European University in Budapest. Mr. Sigdal has a keen interest in interrelationship between technology, business, and human rights. Mr. Sigdal is a founding chairperson and executive director of the Digital Rights Nepal, a non-government organization promoting digital rights in Nepal. It works on various facets of digital rights, including online freedom of expression, privacy, data protection, information integrity, cyber safety, and security. Friends, we are very happy that Mr. Santosh Sigdal has joined us from Nepal.
Hello everyone, Namaste. This is Santosh Sigdal from Digital Rights Nepal. I'm co-founder and executive director of Digital Rights Nepal. I'm glad to be part of this regional hub meeting of the ICA 74th meeting. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the contemporary media issues and concerns in Nepal. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the media situation in Nepal, regulation of media, contemporary policy issues, and at the same time some concerns and challenges of media in Nepal. Talking about the media landscape in Nepal, the media landscape became vibrant after the restoration of democracy in 1990. Before that, it was only mostly the government media, and after 1990, a lot of newspaper and television they started to bloom. And by 2023, if we look at data, there are more than around 5,000 media outlets, including 730 media daily papers. In the FM also, this is FM radio is very vibrant in Nepal, and one of the main media, around 1,200 registered radios are there throughout the country, and at the same time the number of television is around 200 plus, and online media, that is new kind of development where we have more than 5,000 registered online media. So this is very vibrant. And apart from that, there are government media. Government is running print journal, print media. That is Gorkhapatra is national daily, and the Rising Nepal is the English daily run by the government. At the same time, there is Radio Nepal run by the government, and Nepal Television is the television run by the government. So this is kind of media situation in Nepal right now. Talking about the regulatory mechanism, the constitution has guaranteed press freedom, complete press freedom, and at the same time it has guaranteed the right to communication under Article 19, and at the same time right to information has been guaranteed under Article 27 of the constitution. So under the right to communication, there is guaranteed that no press will be there will be no seizure or closure of the press. At the same time, no equipment or press will be taken over by the government, and no registration will be cancelled. So there is a kind of constitutional guarantee of media in Nepal. There are some sectoral laws which govern the media in Nepal. For example, for the print media, there is Press and Publication Act 1991. For the television, there is a Broadcasting Act 1992. And there is also online media directives which govern the online media in Nepal. Similarly, there are other few laws which also applicable to the media. For example, social media directive is applicable to the media as well for their social media platform. Talking about the dynamic of the communication system, there is legacy media and new media or the digital media. Legacy media is institutionally registered. They are run by professionals who have background in journalism, and at the same time there is a formal reporting and there are matured group. There is independent editors, and there is a editorial that is mostly editorial content. Talking about the digital media, that is mostly youth led, and there are diverse issues, and they cover issues mostly ignored by the mainstream media as well. And they are mostly unorganized, though many of them are registered, but the social media groups are also disseminating news, and they are unregistered. And there are many YouTube channels which are not registered as online media, but they have a large followers group. And the digital media is mostly informal reporting, and there is no editorial control over the content. There are some sectoral laws as well, which I already talked about, but apart from that, the government is thinking of bringing new laws and policies as well. So the government is working on mass communication bill, and it will replace the Press and Publication Act and Broadcasting Act. At the same time, the government has proposed Media Council bill, which will replace the Press Council, and at the same time, there is Social Media Directive in place, and Social Media Regulation Bill is proposed by the government. So that will also cover the social media platform run by the media. So these are the new proposals. And talking about apart from these laws and policies, uh, because this is a federal country, so the provincial government and the local government also has power to frame rule to regulate media in their territory. So they have also framed laws. Now, talking about the challenges, there are many challenges faced by the Nepali media lately. One is because the government is coming up with many new proposals, so these proposals are somehow targeted to shrink the scope of free press and freedom of expression and press freedom. There are dubious languages used in these laws and provision, for example, in social media bill. And the Media Council bill has which is proposed to replace the Press Council has a government domination in its appointment. So there is also the challenges of this new law to media situation. Talking about the digital media scenario, most of the Nepali, they are very active in social media. In a country of around 30 million people, only Facebook has more than 12 million users, and half of the population, around 15 million people, are in social media. In November last year, November 2023, a government ordered a ban on TikTok, and there is a still constitutional challenge in the Supreme Court challenging that decision of the government to ban TikTok. Talking about the other challenges, there is a concentration of media in the urban locations. So the issues in the rural areas are not covered by the mainstream media. Labor issues is another problem haunted media sector lately in Nepal. Because of that, many media has kind of closed down after the pandemic. Many of the news media, they faced this financial challenges, and they could not cope the brunt of the COVID, and they decided to close the outlet. So labor issues is one of the major issues faced by media lately. One of the challenges is the criminalization of the defamation law, and media has been subject of criminal defamation in many of the cases. And Electronic Transaction Act, dubbed as the cyber law of Nepal, has been used to also target journalists and media by the people who do not like the reporting. So this is a criminal law. So media, there are many instances where journalists and media has been kind of apprehended based on this law. Apart from that, the National Cyber Security Policy has also proposed National Internet Gateway in Nepal that is very problematic, which aims to establish a national kind of gateway to monitor the traffic incoming and outgoing from the country. So that is another challenge. So some of the ways to address these challenges is the active role of civil society in the policy making, at the same time engagement with the government while making the policies relating to media. At the same time, it is the civil society group also has to regularly, they have to be vigilant about the freedom of expression. And another issue that has to be prioritized is the promotion of digital literacy, because misinformation and disinformation is a growing concern in Nepal, and a low level of understanding about the digital literacy is another challenge. So these are some of the ways to deal with the challenges and concern of to address the concerns faced by Nepali media. Hope this brief note will help you understand the landscape of media, their issues and concerns in Nepal. Thank you.
Dr. Abu, JMS Buyan is a professor and founding chair of the Department of Television, Film, and Photography. He did his PhD at the School of Communication at Simon Fraser University in Canada. His areas of research include political economy of communication, media policy, new media and society, media and geopolitics, and internet governance. His books includes Internet Governance and the Digital South. He is also a former journalist and documentary filmmaker. He received the Bangladesh National Award for the Best Documentary Film.
Honorable Chair of the session, fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. This is Dr. Abu Buyan from the University of Dhaka in Bangladesh. I congratulate Professor B.P. Sanjay and his team at the Manipal Institute of Communication for organizing this panel on human rights and media in South Asia. I'm pleased to be on this panel. I would love to be present physically to listen to you and learn from you. However, my apologies for not being there. Anyways, I have been asked by Sanjay ji to add a Bangladeshi perspective to the panel. I'll try my best to do that. I'll split my presentation in 3 segments. In the first section, I'll briefly talk about human rights issues in Bangladesh. In the second section, I'll talk about media coverage of those issues. And finally, I'll talk about the future direction of research. Let me shed some light on the human rights situation in Bangladesh. Allegations of torture, enforced disappearances, curtailment of the right to peaceful assembly, and the freedom of expression are rampant. However, this is nothing new in the Bangladeshi context. It has been there for many, many years. In a comparative sense, democratic governments fared well than the military regimes. The victims of such acts have been political or ideological opponents, people accused of criminal offenses, and sometimes journalists. The incidents of violation occur in 3 contexts: during political conflicts, religious riots, and when journalists uncover corruption or misdeeds of powerful people. A powerful person is someone who either has political, economic, or institutional power. However, it is risky to accept the claims of human rights violation at their face value. The allegations of violations are raised by opposition political parties, global rights bodies, and national critics representing the NGOs. Many of them are politically and geopolitically aligned. These days, the involvement of regionally and globally powerful states in Bangladeshi political processes is an open secret. On many occasions, global rights bodies echoed the claims and statements of the opposition political parties, angering the government. We all know that politicians everywhere don't hesitate to make fabricated and distorted claims to score points against opponents. Bangladeshi politicians are not an exception to that. The global NGOs such as Reporters Without Borders and Freedom House, which make Press Freedom Index across the world, rank Bangladesh, India, and some other South Asian countries as partially free. Given their sources of funding and method of data collection, we cannot not be critical about their findings. However, there is no way to deny that the incidents of human rights abuses happen in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh's 53 years of independence, Bangladesh has been under direct military rule for 17 years, and the country is yet to develop a mechanism to peacefully transfer power. Like many other countries in the global south, the politics of vengeance is a common feature in Bangladesh. The weaknesses of the democratic and governance institutions create spaces for human rights violations. The question is how the Bangladeshi media deal with the issues of human rights violation. We see a discrepancy between the legacy media and social media in reporting the issues of human rights violation. Whenever a nationally influential person or entity is involved in human rights violation, legacy media hesitate and delay in reporting the incident. In most cases, social media compels the legacy media to cover sensitive incidents. Political and economic vulnerability of the legacy media and the vulnerability of the journalists are primarily responsible for that. To explain the political vulnerability of the media, I would draw on the concept of political parallelism coined by Helene and Mancini and the concept of clientelism. Political parallelism refers to the degree and nature of connections between the media and political parties and the reflection of that in the content. Bangladesh has a high degree of political parallelism. Bangladeshi media are politically polarized. This polarization happens because of a patron-client relationship between the political parties and media owners. In the Indian subcontinent, patron-client networks play a strong role in the distribution of public resources, claimed Mostak Khan. Political patrons prefer to distribute resources and benefits to their clients. The distribution of media licenses also happens through such networks. The clients try to return the favor by offering favorable coverage or by undermining an issue. Financial vulnerability has been another crippling factor for the media freedom. Government and private advertisements are key sources of revenue for the print and online media, while electronic media depend solely on advertising revenue. Sabina Inderjit, the vice president of the International Federation of Journalists, aptly stated the obvious at a World Press Freedom Day seminar in Dhaka this year. She argued that in South Asia, most mainstream media outlets are dependent on government advertisements, and the government denies advertisements to critical media. The corporate ownership of the media wants to stay on the side of the government to protect their business interests. Journalists are also vulnerable to political and corporate pressure. The lack of job security and poor salary made this profession unattractive to journalism graduates. Journalists working in the countryside have been the worst sufferers. Most of them don't receive regular salaries and have to rely on other works alongside journalism for their survival. Journalist trade unions are divided into party lines. Journalists became more divided by developing beat-based associations. The reporters of every beat have their own association. They rely on corporate sponsors for maintaining offices, organizing seminars, and covering foreign events. Access to social media have created a lot of pressure on legacy media and the state. Legacy media can avoid the issues which get viral on Facebook, and they also operate their social media pages to expand the reach. Many citizens having access to social media without adequate media literacy post whatever they like on social media, including sudden emotional outbursts. Many people are not aware that their freedom of expression is not unlimited. The Article 39 of the Bangladesh Constitution enshrines freedom of expression with quote unquote some reasonable restrictions imposed by different laws. Incidents of defamation, cyberbullying, cheating, and many other cyber crimes have created the opportunity for the state to regulate the behavior of social media users. However, Bangladesh lacks independent regulatory bodies to look after the media. The only body Bangladesh has is the Press Council, and its power is limited to the print media. For the other media, the country has no regulatory body. In absence of that, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting acts as the regulator. However, as part of British India, Bangladesh inherited some media laws. The post-colonial Bangladeshi elites did not change the repressive media laws which enable censorship of media content. Instead, they used them as the basis for formulating new media laws. In recent years, Bangladesh's cybersecurity law has created a lot of controversies. The Digital Security Act has been the most misused law of the country. It empowered the law enforcement agencies to arrest people without warrant and made some offenses non-bailable. Vagueness in defining the provisions of the law created opportunities for its misuse. Many powerful individuals have utilized this law to punish people who made derogatory comments on social media. Facing scathing criticism from global and local rights bodies, the government is in the process of amending the law. Bangladesh needs to develop independent regulatory bodies and reform its media laws to promote and protect freedom of expression and other human rights. So far, I have briefly discussed the human rights issues and their media coverage in Bangladesh. I'll now talk about the future direction of research in this area. The level of the protection of human rights and media freedom are correlated with the democratization of society. Our research and activism should be geared toward promoting democratization of the society and the media institutions. Democratization should involve strengthening the mechanism of accountability and creating an environment to promote tolerance and public discussion and debate. There could be collaborative research among South Asian scholars. The Manipal Institute of Communication as the regional hub could take the lead in doing comparative media research among South Asian countries. I would be more than happy to join any comparative research initiative. That's it from me. My profound gratitude to the Manipal Institute of Communication for giving me the opportunity to talk on this distinguished panel. Thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. Bye for now.
From the presentations, we have gathered the understanding of, let us say, the UN system within which the Universal Declaration of Human Rights formed the guideline for many of the human rights articulations in different countries of the world. From Bangladesh, we had two perspectives, one looking at it from the Information Commissioner's point of view, and another looking at it from the academician's point of view. In Pakistan, Professor Bushra articulated the need of the requirement of hearing, not only hearing the voices, but also giving voice to the marginalized. Digital Nepal initiative, which was presented by Santosh, captured the new dynamics of the ecosystem in Nepal. We would be very happy to answer your questions, and the slide gives you the details of our contact address. Thank you very much for this opportunity.